Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the 93rd edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And Jamie, I do believe that somewhere in the vicinity of this space that we're recording in, somewhere in the ether, are the Chronicles of Dustin Murphy?
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely wonderful. Big shout out Tom Brompton for setting this one up. Hit it!
Hi there! You're about to enjoy the Chronicles of Tom and Jamie.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Mann.
Hi guys, my name's Annabelle Knight and hello, this is Becky Baldwin.
Hello, I'm Chesney.
Hey, what's up everyone? This is Braden from Say We Can Fly.
Hi, this is Dustin Curtis Murphy. I am a writer, director, and indie film producer of the film Coyote, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.
Well, we need 5 now. We need 5 features, all done within a month.
Boys and girls, put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of Dustin Curtis Murphy.
So I suppose we should get down to what everyone's here for.
Yeah, okay.
And bring that piece in, yeah? Welcome to the Chronicles of Dustin Murphy.
Did Anya survive?
Dustin Murphy is an award-winning writer, director, producer, and according to his bio, he creates work at the crossroads of social impact and commercial crowd pleasers. I really love that way of describing his work. It's great. Dustin has produced 2 web series, 9 short films that have been recognised by the Academy Award and BAFTA qualifying film festivals, and he's here today to promote his first feature film, Coyote, a dystopian sci-fi starring Therica Wilson-Read from Netflix's The Witcher. Watch the trailer before you watch this. It looks fantastic. This interview is great. I love this. It's so inspiring. You guys are going to love this one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dustin, for coming on the show. A massive shout out again to Tom Brompton for organising this one for us and getting in touch. It was an absolutely glorious conversation. So much fun. And yes, his brand new movie Coyote is out soon. He also is the CEO of Kino Short Film. So if you're an independent director or an independent movie maker in the UK, please do reach out on Instagram to Kino Short Film, Kino Short Film, because you will not be disappointed to do a lot of work to benefit you and you benefit them in turn. It just, everyone looks after each other, works with each other. It's absolutely incredible. But Dustin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was an absolutely amazing conversation and I can't wait for you guys to hear this one. It's pretty beautiful. Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Any final words at all?
Just a massive thank you to this week's guest, and may we say, the greatest promotional tool of a backdrop you will ever see, ladies and gentlemen. This is so much fun. Again, thank you so much to Dustin for taking time out of your day and talking to us, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, it's Dustin Murphy. Yeah.
Oh?
Hello, sir. Now that is a snazzy background. That is how you promote a film, my friend. That is good. I like that.
Doing what I can.
So, this right here, this is a movie I made. I don't know if you know anything about it. You should know.
Oh, this old thing. Oh.
Dustin, what's a poster for your film look like? Quick.
How are you doing? You okay?
Good. How are you guys doing? Where are you guys based?
I'm in Birmingham,
and I'm down in shit old Newport, Wales. So it's not a very nice town. I'll be honest.
Is it just as hot there as it is in London at the moment? That's where I am.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a top floor flat, so it's 33 degrees in here right now. So, and the ginger as well. I'm surprised I've not a massive puddle on this screen. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, well.
It'll get more moist and foggy by the end of the conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll all be doing that on the camera's like, you still there? What's going on? Hello? What was going to happen is Jamie's going to do a nice introduction, just lure you into a false sense of security, make you feel safe, secure, happy to be here, and then we're going to absolutely bombard the living crap out of your questions. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful. I would expect nothing less.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Hate to disappoint.
Jamie.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, today we bring you another wonderfully talented guest. This week's guest is a filmmaker who in his career so far has helped create 2 web series, 1 feature film and 9 short films. Not that much, come on, all in a day's work. He uses his talents to create projects that work at the crossroads of social impact and commercial crowd pleasers, and reportedly, he loves a good twist. Whether that's a plot of a story or the dance is up to you to find out. Here to talk all about his brand new and first ever feature film, Coyote, and so much more. Boys and girls, put your hands together as we bring you the Chronicles of Dustin Curtis Murphy.
Thank you so much for having me on.
No,
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure as always. But I think we should get to the really hard hitting stuff immediately, Dustin. How have the last few years been for you with the pandemic?
Oh, ups and downs. Part of it's been great. Part of it's been an absolute shit show. It's probably been, as most people can say.
Because obviously being from LA and then being in the UK must have been kind of, is it like a family and everything? Are they all back in the States still?
Yeah. So, I moved over to the UK in 2017. So back pretty much in the States, I have my folks still. So mom and dad are over there. So, yeah, it was a good almost 2 years where you didn't see them, and that was tough. But luckily we have Zoom, and we're learning how to survive on Zoom. But I've seen them since, and I'm actually headed out to LA this week, so it'll be good to catch up with them again. But I have seen them since the pandemic.
Oh, good. Is it one of those where did you do like the quizzes that everyone used to do for some random reason? We did quizzes every like Thursday or Friday night or whatever it was.
We didn't do much of that. I think that might be a little bit more of an English thing than an American thing. Basically we would just do a bunch of crying. We're like, well, we're together.
I don't know whether to laugh at that or be like, oh, mate, like I feel
it was a joke. It was the joke.
Okay,
right.
good.
I have a unique sense of humor. It was definitely a joke.
But Mr. Murphy, take us back to the start for you. What did young Master Murphy wish to be when he was growing up? Was it always the world of film for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I always wanted to be something creative. I guess if you take me all the way back, I wanted to be an archaeologist because I loved Indiana Jones and I loved Jurassic Park, and I wanted to be an astronaut because I loved sci-fi. And, so after going through those very, thoughtful decisions as a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old, I realized, hey, what's the common denominator here? Oh, it's movies. You can be anything you want to be if you are in film. So I was always creative from the get-go. I started out as a child actor at the age of 5. Mom and dad have stories of me listening to or watching Aladdin and trying to impersonate the genie and being like, all right, there's something more to this kid other than getting him involved in Little League. So let's get him involved in community theater. And from there, I started doing, regional theater, got swept up more into production in my teens, and just been trying to figure out a way how to make a living in the arts ever since.
Love it. But where did that love of film come from, though, to draw you in? Was it the performance, the story, the spectacle, just all of it?
It's probably the play of it, really. I think we're all born to play, and I think, as people go through their education, the play gets worked out of them, but we're all creative beings. I think, if you look at the most creative people on the planet, they're children, and lots of times children get institutionalized and the creativity gets worked out of them, and then you get boring adults. And I think the artists are the adults that learned how to continue to play throughout their entire lives and hopefully make a living out of it.
I like that. That's great.
It is great. But what blew my mind was that at 6 years old, you wanted to dig things up. And at 6, I don't know I was 6 a very long time ago, but I'm trying to work out what a 6-year-old would think an archaeologist does. Is it like, I just get a brush and brush sand away?
No, I mean, what they think they do is they think you're gonna, reinvent the dinosaur, and you're gonna go to the jungle and go into a cave and get traced by a rolling boulder. That's what they think archaeologists do.
Oh, I'd love to get chased by a massive boulder that could crush me and kill me. That'd be incredible.
It's all the action, adventure, fun.
It's amazing. So I know you started from a very young age, like you said there. But you started studying film at 13, did I read, and making things for festivals at the age of 15. Like,
yep.
What? I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life at that age. What?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been unique that way. It's never been trying to figure out what I want to do. It's just trying to figure out how to do what I want to do. So yeah, being born in Southern California, junior highs and high schools out there. So junior high starts about the age of 12. They have video production class. So I got involved in video production class. It was a 3-year course that you would do. Afterwards, I became a teacher's aide and, so continued to be in that world. And I remember the little studio we had on campus was always my little haven. It was places that I would want to spend my lunch hour. On weekends, I would be shooting something and bring it in to class to show. So there was no amount of homework from that class that was ever enough for me. But then, yeah, it was actually my dad that really encouraged me to start getting more involved in taking film a bit more seriously. So he bought some college level curriculum for me that we started studying more around the age of 14, 15. It was kind of that summer in between 8th and 9th grade that I actually started focusing on things like production design and cinematography. Before that, it was all just, me playing with mom's video camera in the backyard and pretending to be a cowboy and putting on a paper mustache and writing a sticker around and pretending it's a horse. So once I started taking myself a bit more seriously, I took myself extremely seriously and was turning myself into, you guys ever seen Rushmore, the Wes Anderson second film?
No,
I have not, no.
So obscure reference of the day, I guess I win. But if any listeners have seen Rushmore, is essentially that kid. Max Fisher is this high school student who is all about his extracurricular activities. And I think he stages a version of Al Pacino's Serpico for his high school and does like a whole version of Platoon with Vietnam explosions on stage, and it's just completely over the top. But essentially that was me in high school. I would take over the school gymnasium and host my film premieres there. I partnered with a local community theater group and wrangled about 50 people in the local community to be a part of this period musical that was stealing music from a swing band that I liked, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and pieced this entire opus together at 16 years old and put it on in the two screenings in the high school gymnasium with 1,400 people in town came to watch. So I was always extremely ambitious. Let's say that.
It paid off. It's a fair play. I know if I'd turn around to people and gone, come to my show, my mom might turn up.
I think there's quite a difference between the British and the Americans in that sort of retrospect, because like Jamie just said, if Jamie for example put on a movie or something at 15 years old in a school, probably about our mates are probably about 5 people, whereas I think Americans are a lot more passionate about this sort of thing. So the fact that you've got 1,400 people to attend that at that age is phenomenal. And I'm not worthy. I'm just not worthy. I can't. I have never achieved. I'm 36 and I've never achieved anything like that in my life at all. So hats off to you, sir. Hats off.
Well, cheers. Yeah, thanks. I know that there's just definitely something about. I've lived in the UK and I've lived in for 6 years now, and previously I'm from the US, and there's definitely a level of unrepentant confidence that Americans just tend to tackle things, whereas a lot of the British apologize for their successes. I found it's like, oh, I won a BAFTA, so I mean, I hope it's okay.
We're just overly
and
polite about everything.
Americans are like, I made a movie on my iPhone. It is better than Gone with the Wind. You need to watch it now.
It's so true. We are literally the politest nation ever. It's sorry about that. Sorry. No, after you, of course. No, you before me. Please do. Didn't you play? Going to back very slightly, you played Tom Sawyer in a play and won an award for it. Is that correct?
That's true. You've done your research. Yes. So back in my theater days when I was an actor, kind of my biggest success was as an actor was doing a theater run of Tom Sawyer, where I won an Inland Empire Theater League Award for that show. That was when I was 13. So before my shift to film.
So what was it? Was theatre never the goal? I take it then, because of the love of film. I take it was a bit too like I just have to do film. So why did you do theatre as well? Was it just to expand that knowledge? I take it.
No, I mean, so the theater was kind of my gateway drug. So I started out in theater. I think that was, I was quite young. My parents noticed a kind of a creative spark in me. They got me involved in that. And then from there, I led the way into film. I think because you have a little bit more control over film. Yes, you can write a play, but I was always the type of person that wanted to say something with my art rather than somebody who wanted to facilitate what others have to say. I think film gives you that control over your own career. As an actor, you're at the whim of the casting directors, or sometimes you might get cast in something that doesn't, align with your values, but you're like, oh, it's a good role, so I'll do it, even though that's not really the type of roles that I want to be doing. As a writer-director, it's, I want to tackle this topic. It's very important to me. What's a good way to do that? What's a creative way to do that? And so I think it was kind of that element of self-expression that essentially drew me to film. And writing in particular, but film is it's the super art. It's all the arts combined. It's so fun because it's collaborative, which is probably why I'm not a novelist, is because I actually genuinely love getting on set and collaborating with people at every phase of production and post-production. There you go. Long answer to your question.
I love long answers. Yes, I love them. More long answers, the better, Dustin. If you want to talk more, keep going.
They're our bread and butter long answers. We love them. But what was your foot in the door? Try that one again. What was your foot into the doorway of the industry, though? Because you didn't study at college, did you? You just went straight into working.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those things to where, at the time, everybody was saying, the question was always, where are you going to go to college? It was never if you're going to go to college. And now looking back, you have a lot of people of my generation going, oh, mom and dad told me to go to college, that it would unlock all these opportunities for me. And now I'm in debt and I have no opportunities. So I was fortunate enough to where, my parents were supportive to say, go to college. If you want to go to college, we will support that. I mean, we toured film schools. I went to New York Film Academy, had a tour there, Chapman University, USC, UCLA. So it was something I was heavily considering. And what I essentially decided to do was take a gap year. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go straight from high school into college. I want to focus on writing. So I wrote my first feature screenplay, actually as a senior in high school. And then was fortunate enough to get that in front of a producer who liked the style of it, but didn't quite like the story. So we wanted to see what else I had. And he ended up optioning one of my concepts. So I wrote another script for him. So I was 18. I had this option from a producer in Hollywood. He was actually the same guy who produced Noah Baumbach's first 3 films, his 3 indies in the 90s, like Kicking and Screaming, if you're familiar. And I also was volunteering for film festivals, and I met a producer-director team who were also Academy members. So they voted for the Academy Awards, and I became their personal assistant. So after all that happening, kind of my first year, my gap year, it was kind of a question of, okay, well, do I go back to film school where it's a 4-year program? The first 2 years, they don't even put a camera in your hand. So it's all theory sitting in class. And then the other 2 years, they have, they decide who gets to direct which projects. So there's this chance you could actually go all the way through a 4-year film school without actually getting to do the role that you want to do. And you're going to end up in debt because at the time, you're looking at 70 grand per year. So 70 grand times 4. So it wasn't that I didn't want to go to film school or said just oh, screw you, film school. It was more like from a practical standpoint, I had other options on the table. I didn't really want to be in debt. And just decided to take a little bit of a different non-traditional route.
No, it's fair because obviously that sounds like a step back from where you were. That sounds like you're going backwards to start all over again to do it all that you were doing already in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So plus all sci-fi with schools, when you get to about 16, I know it's the one that's here they go. So what do you want to be when you grow up? You go, something. I'll do something. It's go to university. Okay, I'll study construction. I don't like it, but I'll do it because my parents say it's a good thing to do. You know what I mean? And then you get to 30, you go,
Sure.
Why the fuck did I just do that? I work at a greengrocer's. I'm nowhere near construction.
Yeah.
So that whole year for you must have been huge because literally that was your foot in. You're like, well, I'm kind of doing it anyway.
Yeah, I was. I mean, so I was already making, short film projects. I'd already written features. I was, in development, trying to get the first feature off the ground. So it was just kind of that logical step. And absolutely one of the pinnacles of that year as an 18-year-old kid. It was the first time that I was actually able to attend the Oscar ceremony, which was just this absolute whirlwind. It was 2007, the year that Martin Scorsese finally won after decades of brilliant work. He was finally recognized. And it was just, this crazy story of, this 18-year-old kid who somehow managed to be there at the apex of Hollywood out of nowhere.
Did you meet him, Martin?
I did. So you want the full story for your podcast?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Always.
So, all right. So I was, let's see, where do you begin? It's such a crazy story of how I even got there in the first place. But basically, I was the personal assistant to Academy members. And those Academy members were starting a film festival to where the highest donor to their film festival would get to go to the Oscars with them. So when you're Academy members, you can buy to get tickets to attend the Oscars, but you're not allowed to sell them and give them, but you can give them to friends. So they were kind of sneaking their way in there. And last minute, somebody backed out. So they were like, hey, do you want a ticket? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do that. No problem at all. So they wanted me to film the entire thing. So I was doing some kind of behind the scenes of, their festival journey and their trip to the Oscars and all of that type of stuff. And so I get out on the red carpet with my camera, and then security comes around and they're like, "Oh, put that camera back in the car." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure, not a problem. I'm not supposed to be here anyways, and I don't want to do anything to get kicked out." I walk into kind of the security section, and I'm like, "Well, this is where I'm going to get turned around because I have a ticket that says Victoria on it, and I'm clearly not Victoria. So we'll see what happens." But I don't know. This producer I was with just kind of blagged his way in, and here I am walking the industry line of the red carpet, not the star line, because there's 2 red carpets. There's the get your picture taken and the express line. And then we make it in, and I'm just in absolute shock. I'm just glued to my chair. I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, I've watched the ceremony growing up. I had no idea that I would ever be here, especially so quickly. It's always that fantasy. And yeah, it was a beautiful ceremony. I remember after the fact, I just kind of out there waiting on the red carpet, and around the corner comes George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, and I reach my hand out and I tell Francis Ford Coppola my favorite film of his, which happens to be Rumblefish. Good film. If anybody hasn't seen it, go watch Rumblefish. And he shakes my hand and says, "Oh, thank you very much," and walks past. And I'm like, "Oh, surely the night is never going to get any better than this. Sure, like this is the apex, right?" And the producer I'm with is still not satisfied with just getting into the Oscars. He wants to try to get into the Vanity Fair after party. So I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. I'm along for the ride. Let's go. So a little quick caveat is that he had worked with one Oscar-winning actress before. And as part of his film festival, he was showing her Oscar off in a museum. And part of the prize for the winners was that they could take the Oscar to return it to its rightful owner and meet that star. So he happened on this Oscar night in Hollywood to have an Oscar in hand. And he said the best way to get into the Vanity Fair after party is to be on the guest list, be a celebrity, or have an Oscar in your hand. So we're going to use this puppy to try to get in. I'm like, okay. And he says, everybody knows who I am, so you have to hold it. Okay. So we, line up in limousines to get into the Vanity Fair after party. They try to turn us around. He flashes the Oscar, then they usher us closer and finally usher us all the way in. And everywhere you turn, it's celebrity, 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 celebrity. It's, Will Smith and Vince Vaughn and Oprah and Al Gore. At one point in the evening, I get a tap on the shoulder and I turn around and it's Martin Scorsese. And he's holding out his personal camera and he says, "Hey, can you take a picture of me and my friend?" So I say, "Sure, yeah, that's fine." So I take a picture for him and he looks down and sees that I'm holding an Oscar and he says, "Oh, you got one too." Of course, I don't say that it's not mine or how I got in. And I say that, some of the people that I've worked with before have nicknamed me Scorsese because I have, thick eyebrows like he does. And he's a very, generous man. He says like, "Oh, people with thick eyebrows, that's just proof that they're more creative." And, here he is, the toast of the town in Hollywood on, the night that he's won his Oscar. And he's kind enough to, chat with me for maybe a minute and a half, give me that of his time. Yeah, the guy's an absolute legend in the film world. And I'm so glad I've had my little moment with him.
That's amazing. That is awesome.
I mean,
only in Hollywood, folks, only in Hollywood.
Fair play for getting in. Fair play for just going, "Yep, absolutely, I'm here, and we're going all the way. The whole hog. Let's do it."
I'm surprised you didn't turn into Tom early and just like full Wayne's order. Like, "I'm not worthy." So let's talk about your own work. Like you've said,
Sure.
You focus on serious matters. You have a dramatic tone to your work. Where does that desire to talk about social issues come from?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I think every artist kind of has an existential crisis at one point of like, why am I doing what I'm doing? So it's fine to just make art that's purely entertainment, and there's absolute space for that in the world, and I think that's probably what most art is, or most films are, is entertainment. But then, yeah, it does beg the question: is there some deeper meaning and deeper reasons behind why we're going to invest all this time and have this uphill battle to create, something that's so difficult to make? I mean, I definitely have activism in my background. My parents are both activists. They did have a stint as missionaries as well. So, I probably inherited a bit of idealistic, let's, try to change the world mentality, but I've done that with, okay, let's try to change the world with art. And for me, I know that art, isn't going to change the world in and of itself, but I think it plays a very important role in starting conversations so that people who consume art can have difficult conversations with their friends, with their family, or in the community at large. And collectively, we can solve some of those problems. So yeah, I'm always drawn towards kind of taking some sort of social issue, whether it be my short film Samaritan, where I was tackling climate change, or in the case of Coyote, where I'm tackling human trafficking and the refugee crisis and immigration, taking some element like that, but making it palatable to an audience, because you do get a lot of social justice films out there that do nothing but really preach to the choir, because they're packaged as, maybe an indie drama that doesn't have, much commercial appeal. And I kind of see myself as right at the apex. I'm making gateway drugs for interesting conversations. You might walk into Coyote thinking, oh, I'm going to watch this fun sci-fi film. And you are, but you're going to walk away from that sci-fi film with, oh, well, wasn't expecting that to be in there, and that's interesting. So yeah, I really like to make films that stick with audiences long after they're done watching them, and hopefully things with enough layers and nuance that when they go back and they rewatch the work, they can continue to find more meaning from it.
Because do you think that Hollywood, well, bigger movie companies tend to avoid that sort of, we don't want to upset people, we don't want to piss these people off, we don't, whereas I think in the indie film industry, you've got way more leeway, I suppose, because you haven't got a director being like, no, put more guns in, just put Tom Cruise in there, just put planes in that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you're like, actually, I want to talk about police brutality, and I'm going to talk about it in a way where I'm not like, but it's about police brutality. It's like, you're going to put it in there and, have scenes and etc. There's an actress we interviewed about a month ago who did a movie called My Baby Cries, which is about miscarriage. Whereas she was talking about how like the movies tend to be like, oh, someone's miscarried. Oh, 6 months later. Whereas this movie she's made is like miscarried, and then what happens after, how the parents do it, that sort of thing. So I think it's incredible that you have that platform to be like, we're going to talk about the LGBTQ community, and we're going to make a whole film based around it. That's
so in terms of the indie space, you can when no one's looking over your shoulder, yes, you can do anything that you want to do, and then it's up to the audience, how they respond to it and if it catches on. Obviously there's festival curators in the middle of that, and there's how many marketing dollars you have to put behind a film that do affect ultimately its success. But sorry, it's my dog in the background. Home interviews. But yeah, I think I lost my thought in the middle of it, thanks to the dog. Did I answer your question fully?
I'm just trying to remember what I went off on a massive tangent, so I'm even trying to go back.
Indie films, how you can do whatever you want with indie films, and then
Hollywood are too scared to kind of touch that topic because it's almost like they've got the big boys behind them, and it's they're like, well, I just want guns, Tom Cruise, planes, more guns.
It depends on kind of which faction of Hollywood. I think the thing that I've learned so much in my time in the industry is that there's the entire concept of like a us and them isn't really true. So Hollywood is made up of a lot of individuals, and I would say a lot of individuals do have that mentality where it's all about making money, and you would do a test screening and we would take controversial things out of the film so our product will be more successful. But in that same mix is a lot of people who are also trying to make very interesting work, trying to make statements. Maybe they're not so concerned with dollars. And a lot of those films do get praised by Hollywood as well, as you see during award season time, even though some of those do kind of come from a more independent space rather than being greenlit by a studio. But there's certain studios that have come up that are really embracing creativity, like A24, for example. I think at the last Oscars, A24 had the most nominations for any studio in the history of the Oscars, And
Wow.
and I think that's a sign that shows you, if you give artists that confidence to make the work that they want to make, it's going to pay off in the long run, versus the news that's kind of top of my mind right now that was announced by Netflix yesterday, which was how they are pulling back all of their UK development for emerging talent and not greenlighting any new emerging talent coming out of the UK. Because they want to focus on what the data is, showing them, which in their words they've said is, we want to see more things like the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel and the King's Speech. So it really depends on who you talk to in Hollywood, what answer you're going to get. And there's people for all flavors. I wouldn't say good people and bad people. There's money people, there's creative people, there's creative people who care about money, there's money people who care about creative things. And then, of course, there's always going to be an element of, bottom feeders in any industry, but hopefully you can avoid those, and those people don't get to the top.
Your film Samaritan won Best International Short as well for it's the climate change one, isn't it? And grand prize at the Weather Channel's Earth Film Challenge as well. So massive congratulations there. So that is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we're really here for, shall we? Let's talk about Coyote. Quick rundown, without obviously spoiling anything. What exactly is the movie all about?
Sure. So Coyote is a dystopian sci-fi film, and it's about how newly developed teleportation technology is affecting specifically the refugee crisis. But we take a look at how this new technology of people suddenly being able to teleport anywhere they want to in the world, how would that open up Pandora's box logistically? And kind of the main plot and the main characters in our piece are two queer refugees who are trying to escape genocide in their home country that is unfortunately trying to exterminate them. And in trying to escape, they trust the wrong back alley teleporter, are separated, and in the process are human trafficked. So then the film becomes about, will these characters reunite, and will they overcome their struggles with their human traffickers?
Wow, it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it really does.
And it looks amazing from what I've seen from the trailer. Like, if people listening to this haven't seen the trailer, pause this, go watch the trailer, and then come back, because it looks beautiful. It looks so good as well. But what made you decide now is the time to do a feature length? This is going to be my first feature length.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of false starts with features. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I wrote my first feature at 17 years old. I optioned my second feature script at 18 years old. So I kind of have always felt that I'm on the cusp of something happening. And, Hollywood loves development, right? It's all like, oh, let's sit in a room and let's talk about how we can change films into the best versions of what they can be. And I think there's definitely room for that, but I think there's probably too much development in the industry, and that too much magic gets worked out of really brilliant concepts. I think there's too much filmmaking by committee, and when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it makes everything taste more generic. I think maximum 3 people, 3 key creatives probably make the best art. It not necessarily has to be one, auteur director, but a core team of 3, I think, really gets you to good places. And so I pitched Samaritan around as a feature because after its success, it just kind of seemed logical to develop it into a feature. It was fortunate enough to get picked up by the Climate Story Lab, which was supported by BFI Network and Exposure Labs, and we were able to pitch the Samaritan feature to places like BBC and Channel 4, and we always came up to the same wall, which was, oh, well, you've never made a feature film before, so we're not going to greenlight your feature film. So they made me go, okay, well, if I need to have done something in order to do something, then I'm going to need to hustle and find a way to do this myself. So while Coyote sounds like this, massive film, and it, looks like this massive film, it was written with keeping constraints in mind, right? So it's not a lot of locations, it's not a lot of characters, it's high concept. There's strategic use of visual effects and key parts, but it's not like an opus of visual effects over an hour and a half. And in doing so, I was able to create a film that was at a low enough budget level that I could raise finance privately through individuals, rather than having to go to a studio and say, oh, greenlight me, because even though you don't know if I can deliver a feature film. And in theory, it was, okay, well, now I can go into these pitch meetings and I can say, well, I have made a feature film, I can deliver, here it is. But if I'm honest, I think they'll probably come up with a different excuse this time. So there's always a different hurdle around every corner.
You've only directed one.
Yeah, it's such a mental. Like, I don't understand if they love the short, they love Samaritan so much. What is the issue with you having? Yeah, I know you've done one now, but having yet to do a feature now, they're probably like, well, we need 5 now. We need 5 features, all done within a month.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, the way I see the main problem in the industry is this shift away towards emotion and towards data. So, I mean, it's been this very influential book that's affected every business, and that's the data-driven model. And what it says, if you want to be successful in business, you got to throw emotions and throw your heartstrings aside and just look at what works, through the data. And the way that has affected film is it's kind of worked a lot of the creativity out of a lot of the major studios. And that's why kind of the golden idol right now is what they call existing IP. And that is films that are based on something that already exists and already has an audience. So the studios want to tap into existing audiences, and they want to put all their ducks in a row, since they've kind of all sold to bigger companies and bigger conglomerates, that if they have a flop, they can say, well, look at what the data said. The data said this director had done this type of thing before, and that was a hit. And it was in this genre, which was a hit. And it was based on this book, which was a hit. And we got this screenwriter who won an Oscar. So you can't fire us because we followed the data and we made all the right decisions. So I think that's kind of the big thing, is people are too scared to go out on a limb and vouch for people. It does happen. People do vouch for people. There's beautiful people in the industry. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times when it does happen, it also does come from a place of nepotism a lot, because they, want to get somebody they know or somebody they're related to into, the industry as well, because everybody wants to be in film, especially if you lived in LA, you realize that, if you're in a Uber in LA and you say, oh, I'm a director, that Uber driver is going to pass you a screenplay.
Really?
Nobody's in LA to do anything other than film.
I'm taking that's happened. That's happened quite a few times, is it?
Yeah, one way or another. I mean, it can be a musician who wants to score your film, or an actor, or a screenwriter. Everybody moves to LA to think, that's where they need to be to make it. But there's so much competition out there that kind of the best thing you can do is actually move out of LA and build up a portfolio of work, and then return to LA with a portfolio of work, rather than going to LA when you're young and trying to kind of build up. I've lived in LA, I've lived in Denver, and I've lived here in London. And all of my periods out of LA were my most productive periods, where I was actually able to greenlight things, because I found access to a key, creative community that, wasn't behind closed doors.
So, just going back to Coyote,
Sure.
Where did the actual idea for it come from? Where did the story arc? Because obviously, like I said, you touched on the immigration side, there's the genocide of it, and
Sure.
the LGBTQ side as well. Like, what made you want to go, these are the topics I want to address in this movie?
So, I mean, obviously the first spark was, okay, what Pandora's box would teleportation open. That was the first note that I wrote down. Okay, how would teleportation affect immigration? And that kind of sat in my brain for a while. And obviously, immigration is a hot button item here in the UK and also in the US. And kind of one of the pivotal cultural moments was when Donald Trump was being elected, and he was all talking about building the wall. Obviously, in my world, you can teleport right over that wall very easily. But specifically, he said one of the most offensive things that I think a president has probably ever said about refugees coming from the Mexican border was that Mexico isn't sending their best people; they're sending rapists. So he was vilifying these vulnerable refugees who are trying to cross the border for safety. And then I was juxtaposing that with this Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and how Jeffrey Epstein was this, very powerful socialite who was rubbing elbows with politicians, Trump included. And he was discovered to be an actual human trafficker. So, for lack of a better term, an actual rapist. This guy was an actual rapist. So the fact that Trump would say, oh, this poor refugee is a rapist, and not this person who he's, hanging out with socially, and who knows what else, I thought was very, very offensive. And that's essentially where I got the villains for the piece. So, when you do watch it, this isn't too much of a spoiler, the human trafficking ring that they get involved with, the patrons of these girls who are being exploited are politicians, and specifically anti-immigration politicians, people who are vilifying them while at the same time getting their jollies from human trafficking. Not very nice people.
The guy gives me the creeps.
As it should. As it should. That is the right response to that.
Just every time I think about him, I remember something he said, and I'm like, oh, such a creepy guy. Yeah. So, obviously, you had the premiere for the film at the Phoenix Film Festival. How did that screening go? What sort of feedback did you get for the movie?
Yeah, it was great. So Phoenix was cool because they don't just screen your film once, they screen it 3 times over the course of a week and a half. So we had 3 screenings. So we were able to pick up momentum, and by the end of it, we sold out our final screening, which was fantastic. And I was able to get it in front of audiences and see that it was working. Our film does tackle a lot of very difficult subject matters that could lend itself to a lot of explicit scenes, but I definitely found it was a compliment that somebody said that my film made them uncomfortable to the point that they could tolerate, but they knew they were in safe hands, that I was never going to cross a line and show something too over the top for exploitation, just to push a boundary. I always, I think if I was a writer, I might push a bit more boundaries when I don't have to have actors actually act out the scenes. So, there's a lot you can say with building that suspense and building that up to a point that's intolerable, and then cutting before the moment where it crosses the line, which is what I do in this film quite a bit, is build that suspense around it. So to get the feedback that those techniques were actually working, especially since they're, classic techniques that, I learned from Hitchcock, who was, working in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And you think that film might have really pushed the boundary far to where you couldn't get away with some of those old techniques anymore, that you would have to cross lines just in order to feel fresh. It felt great, because it's a real throwback to a lot of the films that I love to watch. So I've been, astounded that we've been selling out screenings, and astounded that we sold the film and we're getting a wide release in North America and Canada on digital, starting June 20th, which is just a couple days away. Here I'm 4 days out from seeing what the rest of the wider world thinks of it, other than just a festival audience.
You just segued beautifully into what I was going to
Thank
ask
you.
you. Are you excited for that release on the 20th?
Yeah, excited, nervous. I mean, right now we've been able to pack theaters with festival audiences, which are very lovely and very friendly and very forgiving. Since I know, this is a film that you're probably going to love or hate because of your own political leanings and things like that, I would imagine there might be a little bit of controversy around it. So I'm bracing for that a little bit. Yeah, I'm excited to let the pieces fall where they may. And at the end of the day, I'm proud to have made the statement that I made.
What do you hope people take away from this film? Well, once they've watched it, what sort of things are you wanting people to take away from it?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm very interested in making gateway drugs and making films that kind of bridge the gaps in audiences. I don't really want to preach to a choir who already knows that refugee rights are something that's important. I really hope that this film does find its way to audiences who might be a little bit more on the fence about how they feel about refugees coming to their country, and maybe because of their own economical situation, they kind of do feel that maybe refugees or immigrants are coming over the border to steal their jobs. And if they see that that's not the case, and they empathize with these characters, and they fall in love with these characters in the film, that then the next time they see a refugee in real life, they will think of that situation with more empathy and have more understanding for that situation. I'm very much against this us versus them mentality, and the mentality of divide and conquer. And I think if enough people realize that the people at the underprivileged side of society are kept busy fighting amongst each other so the ultra privileged can get away with crimes, that if we could unite, then we could focus on the people who are really causing the trickle down problems in society. And I guess I hope my film does its little part in that conversation. It's a big conversation, and my film can't do it alone, but hopefully it can do its little part.
I'm sure it'll instigate the conversations. That's why I'm looking forward to watching it now. I'm really excited for you as well, because obviously you put so much love and such passion, and you really care about the subjects that you're talking about. So even I'm here, I'm rooting for you, Dustin. I'm massively rooting for you. I want to go up there and just take off, and you'll be in Hollywood within, 6 months or whatever, and genuinely being there as a director, not as the 18-year-old, holding us going, well, I hope I can make it in.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But with a Dustin Murphy, you mentioned Hitchcock, and you said that you took some styles from him. How, if nobody was aware of yourself, say, and they put one of your films, how would they know it's a Dustin Murphy movie?
So, the thing that I commonly work with is performance-driven pieces. So it's quite a bit of dialogue, really strong performances by actors, and I oftentimes work in the blended genre space. So I kind of tend to think of myself as, what if Paul Thomas Anderson was making genre films? What if he made a sci-fi film? What if he made a horror film? Because he makes these really strong, dramatic performance pieces, but lift that element out of him, and then lift maybe genre out of somebody like Spielberg or James Cameron, and mash that together to get kind of this interesting fusion. I think that's what you would probably recognize in my work, and a heavy element of nostalgia as well. There's a lot of nostalgia filmmaking in my work. I'm definitely one to go back to proven techniques rather than to push the boundaries in something crazy you've never seen before, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm not like Daniels. I'm more like taking a step back than a step forward.
And everyone loves nostalgia. Yeah, no, it's great. Absolutely great.
It's great.
Absolutely.
So obviously, we'll start bringing this to an end very soon, but I did want to, obviously we're talking about Coyote there, but we do need to point out, as we've touched on a few times, you've had an incredible success with your short films. like picked up a ton of awards. I know it's like asking someone to pick a favorite child, but what's one or two of those shorts, you're extra proud of that you'd encourage people to go and check out? Because I know there's 9 of them, I believe. So I know it's going to be hard, but I want people out here to get more of a feel for what you do other than just Coyote.
Sure. Well, kind of top of the tier for me is Samaritan. It's definitely, one of my all-time favorites. That is available on the YouTube channel Omeletto, which is one of the largest channels for short films. So do check that out if you're, especially if you like Coyote as well, because it very much is in the same world. It's, a dystopian sci-fi blended genre piece that's very heavily character driven. And was definitely the predecessor to Coyote in its style, and used a lot of the same crew, the same DOP, the same composer. And then if I was to pick another one, I did a lot of comedy and kind of got burnt out from comedy. And then I did a switch to drama. And that first drama I did always holds a real special place for me. Even though it really wasn't any sort of a success. It was a personal success because I love the film, but from a festival standpoint, an award standpoint, only played 3 festivals. I got the opportunity to work with this wonderful older actor who actually helped train me when I was a kid doing theater. His name's Steve Gahagan, and he trained in the same method acting class as Marlon Brando. He was like a junior coming in when Brando was exiting the class. So they rubbed shoulders for, I think, about a year. And it's 9 minutes long, and it's pretty much just Steve's performance carrying the entire piece as he talks about this pivotal moment in his life, it's like the character's life, that he regrets. And how he feels if he could trace everything back to that moment, his life would somehow be better for it. And that film's called Without Regret. And yeah, I think that one really started to push me on a course towards where I am now. So that one holds a very special place for me.
To be fair, it sounds amazing. I was just watching you then. I was like, keep talking. It sounds amazing. I want to watch this. Keep talking. Phenomenal. As we start wrapping up here, what else are you working on at the moment? Anything else coming out, or are you solely focusing on Coyote at the moment?
So, I mean, Coyote takes a ton of my time. I mean, as an indie filmmaker, the job really is never done. And I really am discovering that. I mean, things like, PR and marketing and a whole bunch of stuff continues to go. But I always have these projects in my back pocket. So I'm ready to actively start conversations about my slate of features that I have in development. There is the script for Samaritan, the feature version of that is ready to go if we find the right financing partner. And also in the pipeline, I'm working on an ensemble horror film that is kind of like one of those films where you have a lot of characters who don't seem to be connected, and as the story comes together, all of their paths cross, and then you see how they're all related. Something like Magnolia or Crash. It's that, but in the genre space. So it's that as a horror film, which I've never seen before. I've never seen it as a horror film. Because I love a good horror, but my biggest criticism of the genre is that so often they go to the same storylines over and over again. And the same formulas to get their scares, and it's the creepy house, the creepy basement. Let's a lot of times it's characters doing what you wouldn't do, right? It's the dumbest character doing the dumbest thing,
running up the stairs,
and to me that's not scary. So I want to make my film where you as an audience go, okay, the scary thing's over there, and the character runs the opposite direction, but then things still go wrong. That's more terrifying, when the character is making all of the right decisions and things still go wrong. And that's what this film will be.
So your characters aren't running up the stairs when the killer is downstairs. No. That always makes me laugh.
Yeah, they're not gonna go take a shower in a haunted house.
Oh, there's a weird noise downstairs in the basement with no windows. I better go and check it out all by myself and not tell anyone I've gone down there. You're also teaching as well. You've got some, I noticed you had some filmmaking classes on your website. Yep. What made you want to pass on the knowledge to other people as well to help them get off the ground?
So when I first moved over to the UK, I became involved with a group in London called Kino Short Film. And Kino Short Film is just this great collective community of indie filmmakers. It started in 2009, and it was known as kind of a short film open mic night where people could screen anything that they wanted to screen for free in front of a live audience of maybe 60, 70, 80 people. And at the time, I had come from the festival circuit, which is the system of, okay, I've made a film, I'm going to submit it to a bunch of festivals, I'm going to pay them, they're going to mostly reject me, and then I'll eventually get into a couple of festivals, and then I'll attend. And a lot of times, there's tons of festivals out there that can't even draw an audience other than the filmmakers who are screening. So you think maybe you're going to go to this great festival screening, and you end up, just sitting in an empty cinema with maybe 5 other filmmakers. Kino is like the antithesis of that. So when I found this community, when I moved over here, that was doing these short film open mic nights, and I had this genuine vibe about it. They were doing meetups, so you could get together and make films, and they were doing classes. So it was just kind of a logical thing for me to start getting involved with. And the previous person who was running it moved to Buenos Aires and stepped down, and I loved it so much. I was like, oh, I don't want to see this go away. So I stepped up to start running Kino Short Film, and that's when I did the classes at that time. And then I'm still, kind of passionate about breaking down as many barriers as I can for filmmakers so they can, actualize their dreams and show off their talents. And that's why we started our BIFA qualifying Kino London Short Film Festival. That's why we also started distributing short films online. And we started a film fund so filmmakers can have access to funds to greenlight their next short film with us. So I'm always passionate about doing everything I can in space to make the industry the place we all want it to be.
Absolute hero, Dustin. Yeah. An inspiration and a hero. And again, like I said, Wayne's World, not worthy.
and that right there is why I love talking to indie filmmakers, because it is about the love of film. Money, it's great, but let's get those stories out there. Let's help people get their stories out there. And it's amazing to see that you're willing to help other people achieve what you've achieved so far, and it is absolutely phenomenal. If I was wearing a hat, I would tip it. So it's absolutely beautiful. I see my co-host helps me out with that one. Absolutely amazing. Last thing from me, because I realized I didn't ask earlier. You mentioned when it comes out in North America. When's it coming out in the UK?
So we're still doing the festival circuit in the UK. So the next time you can watch it is the Kingston International Film Festival, which is June 25th. And if you follow us at our website, which is teleportyourself.com, as soon as we have a wide release date for the UK, we'll be announcing it there. We do expect it to be within the next couple of months, but nothing is solidified yet.
Wonderful. I will keep my eyes peeled, so I really want to watch this film. It sounds amazing. Mr. Stevens, any final questions for our wonderful guest?
I do. I have one more. Did you ever think when you wanted to be an archaeologist as a 6-year-old and revive the dinosaurs, and then obviously going to school, not going to college, that sort of, did you ever think this is where you'd be today, having 9 short films and now a feature length and a comedy short series and that sort of? Did you ever think this is where you'd be now, spreading the love of Coyote?
At 7, did I think?
No. I mean, it's like, obviously, from when you started, when you were a child, when you first found your love of film, did you ever think that this is where you would be right now today, having your first full feature length coming out?
Well, as I would say no, but in typical American sense, because I probably thought I would have been here sooner. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant or egotistical, but that was the confidence that I had from a very early age. And I always had that fantasy in my head of I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the youngest person to ever win an Oscar and blah, blah, blah. And then, here comes Damien Chazelle with La La Land to blow that out of the water. I'm never getting that back.
bastard.
But it is what it is. I love the journey that I've been on. And to be honest with you, I learned so much in making my sketches and making my shorts that my debut feature film is better for it. If I made my debut feature film at 18, it, would have a million more mistakes in it than Coyote has. So, it's interesting. The industry does like to hold up these overnight successes, but as soon as you peel back those layers, you realize there really is nothing of the sort. All of these people who suddenly are propelled to the front of culture, if you dig deep enough, they've been working on it a long time, and they've been practicing a long time. So that's why I say to every, short filmmaker out there and any aspiring actor out there, just keep working, just keep trying, keep showing your work, even if it's not perfect, get feedback for it and grow. And eventually you'll get to where you want to go if you're determined enough.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Dustin, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us. It means the absolute world.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Before we let you go, though, any plugs, social medias, websites, anything you want people to go and check out right now?
Sure. I mean, obviously the biggest thing is Coyote. So I already mentioned teleportyourself.com. On socials, it's the same, @teleportyourself. If you're interested in the work that I do with short filmmaking, check out Kino Short Film, kinoshortfilm.com, and @KinoShortFilm on all the socials. And if you want to follow me personally, it's DCM Filmmaker on all the socials.
Incredible. And I would tell everyone to go and check out your personal website as well, because there's a ton of your older stuff on there to go watch. It's absolutely, there's so much stuff on there to watch. It's absolutely amazing.
True. I'm not somebody who wants to hide my history. So if you dig back to the deep recesses of my website, way below, scroll down below my current portfolio, you can find some of the films that I made when I was 13, 14, 15 or so. if you're so inclined.
Dustin, this has been absolutely incredible. But seriously, Dustin, I wish you every success with Coyote. I hope it just goes to the fucking moon when it's released next week in the States. And I look forward to it coming out over here. And yeah, just wish you all the best of the future, my friend. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dustin. Take care of yourself, my friend. See you later, buddy. Bye-bye.
What a great conversation. Just so inspirational. I love it. This is what I want to do in my life, and I'm not giving up until I achieve it. Love those stories.
It's absolutely incredible. Dustin, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tom, thank you so much for setting it up. It's graciously appreciated. We look forward to working with you again in the future. And we really hope that you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it.